Garry Nolan begins the conversation by detailing his professional work as a professor at Stanford School of Medicine, focusing largely on cancer research, immunology, and biology. His lab primarily develops innovative instruments that gather and analyze complex data about how the immune system interacts with tumors. Unlike traditional efforts that focus on the biology of cancer cells themselves, Nolan's approach centers around creating tools that can access layers of immunological data, facilitating a clearer understanding of the tumor-immune interface. He acknowledges that, until recently, data scarcity led to a long period of poking in the dark, but breakthroughs in instrumentation have opened doors to unprecedented insights. He explains a crucial dynamic in cancer development. Tumors evolve to deceive the immune system, initially triggering immune responses that eradicate damaged cells. But over time, tumors mutate to evade detection and even manipulate immune cells to aid their growth. This evolutionary dance between mutations and immune evasion causes tumors to create inflammatory niches conducive to metastasis. Nolan describes cancer as an unintended byproduct of evolution, mutations that happen during cell division and DNA damage that occasionally give rise to cancerous cells, which the immune system typically suppresses. However, when the immune system is tricked or silenced, tumors can flourish, emphasizing why immunotherapy has become pivotal in recent cancer treatments. Nolan delves into the immunological intricacies critical to tracking and combating tumors. Central in this discussion are the major histocompatibility complex (MHC) proteins, molecules that present a cell's internal state to the immune system, signaling whether the cell is healthy or damaged. Normally, mutated or virus-infected cells display abnormal peptides through MHC, prompting immune clearance. However, tumors can find ways to turn off or suppress these MHC proteins, effectively cloaking themselves from immune surveillance. He elaborates on the stepwise progression from precancerous lesions to benign and then metastatic tumors, underscoring that tumor cells adopt multiple mechanisms beyond MHC suppression, such as bypassing programmed cell death, apoptosis. The immune system plays a vital role throughout these stages, and the key to improving survival rates lies in reactivating or modulating immune responses appropriately. Nolan also ties this understanding to organ transplants, where immune suppression, necessary to prevent rejection, unintentionally increases cancer risk by diminishing immune surveillance. A significant portion of Nolan's work involves enhancing technologies capable of analyzing myriad immune cell types simultaneously. From early tools that could merely assay 3 proteins at once, Nolan and his team developed methodologies capable of simultaneously measuring 50 to 60 protein markers, enabling a much more comprehensive profile of immune cells. This advancement has allowed clinicians and researchers to identify subtle variations in immune responses and understand disease dynamics far better. He describes the example of acute myelogenous leukemia, a heterogeneous disease where stem cells follow multiple paths towards malignancy. Through the application of pseudotime, analysis, mathematical methods to reconstruct developmental trajectories of cells, his lab can track the progression of individual cells from normal to leukemic states, capturing the complexity of human biology. This approach contributes to the increasingly important field of precision medicine, where treatments are tailored based on the molecular and immunological profile of a patient's tumor. Nolan stresses that although cancers may be classified under the same category, the underlying mutations and immune milieu differ, necessitating personalized therapies for optimal outcomes. Turning to a personal angle, Nolan shares his experience living with a genetic mutation that predisposes him to melanoma and kidney cancer. Reflecting on cultural shifts regarding sun exposure, he explains that ultraviolet radiation damages DNA, leading to skin cancers, particularly in individuals with high genetic susceptibility or lighter skin tones like his. He recalls his childhood when tanning and baby oil were common despite their carcinogenic risks, and emphasizes that unprotected UV exposure remains the primary cause of skin cancers. While acknowledging the importance of sunlight for vitamin D synthesis and circadian rhythm regulation, Nolan advises caution against unprotected UV exposure, especially for sensitive populations. He raises an optimistic possibility that gene editing technologies like CRISPR may someday correct harmful mutations, allowing individuals to enjoy sunlight safely. Nolan conveys cautious hope about emerging gene therapies, but emphasizes that such developments are likely decades away from widespread application. One of the underlying themes throughout the discussion is Nolan's focus on bridging data acquisition and meaningful interpretation. He reveals that his career has revolved around inventing instruments, combing through vast and complex biological datasets with the hope of accelerating scientific discovery. He highlights how massive amounts of data, sometimes overwhelming and incomprehensible, require interpretation frameworks, which have increasingly relied on artificial intelligence, AI. Nolan discusses how AI, particularly agentic AI combined with large language models, functions as an immunologist scientist in a box, capable of rapidly analyzing complex immune datasets, generating hypotheses, and designing subsequent experiments. This automation shrinks months or years of human analysis into hours, representing a paradigm shift in biomedical research. He underscores the importance of human oversight to manage AI's occasional errors, hallucinations, and is excited by the transformative potential of AI-driven data interpretation. Beyond its applications in biology, Nolan envisions AI as a radical force reshaping multiple domains, including scientific research, governance, and society at large. He discusses how AI's ability to juggle enormous datasets and conceptual frameworks surpasses human cognitive limits, making it an indispensable partner in future endeavors. Nolan anticipates AI evolving from a mere tool to a collaborative colleague or even an autonomous entity, capable of interacting meaningfully to help solve problems. While optimistic about AI accelerating discovery and potentially ushering in post-scarcity societies, Nolan acknowledges risks including workforce displacement and the ethical challenges of integrating AI governance. He contemplates scenarios where human cognition might merge with AI directly through neural interfaces, erasing current constraints imposed by language and physical communication. Despite apocalyptic concerns, Nolan champions optimism as a necessary mindset to harness technological progress responsibly. Transitioning to the topic of unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, Nolan recounts how his interest was sparked by cases such as the Otakama mummy, leading him to apply rigorous scientific methods to analyzing purported alien artifacts and medical cases potentially linked to UAP exposures. He recounts his involvement in investigating the medical conditions of individuals affected by apparent UAP events, some of whom displayed symptoms akin to what became known as Havana syndrome, neurological damage consistent with directed energy exposure. Nolan stresses that these medical investigations have provided rare objective evidence that challenges dismissive narratives and have validated complaints from affected military and government personnel. He notes that while many phenomena remain anecdotal and irreproducible, robust scientific examination of medical data offers a foundation for legitimizing some of these claims without descending into speculation. A substantial portion of Nolan's UAP-related work concerns the study of physical materials allegedly linked to UAP encounters. He describes analyzing metal fragments from incidents such as the Ubatuba event in Brazil and Council Bluffs in Iowa. Using advanced techniques like atomic probe tomography and isotope ratio mass spectrometry, his team has uncovered unusual isotopic compositions, such as magnesium isotope ratios that deviate from known terrestrial or cosmic values, suggesting exposure to extreme neutron radiation or non-natural origins. While these results do not constitute definitive proof of extraterrestrial manufacture, Nolan highlights how certain materials' purity and isotopic anomalies would have been exceptionally difficult or impossible to produce with 1950s technology. He notes the importance of developing new atomic-scale imaging instruments to deepen understanding of these materials, regardless of their provenance, which could revolutionize nanotechnology and materials science. Nolan shares his personal experiences navigating academic environments traditionally resistant to commercializing and openly discussing controversial research areas like UAPs. Reflecting on the shift from an exclusive focus on basic science toward translational applications, Nolan recounts early skepticism and resistance he faced when commercializing technologies developed in his lab. Over time, such commercialization became more accepted as necessary to return public investment and accelerate impact. He critiques persistent biases in academic culture that discourage engagement with UAP or unconventional topics due to fear of ridicule or damage to career prospects. Nolan has sought to build institutional spaces like the Soul Foundation that provide professional forums for serious, evidence-based dialogue on UAP phenomena. He emphasizes the need for careful, peer-reviewed publication of findings to legitimate research efforts and counteract misinformation and sensationalism. Nolan explains how the Soul Foundation, which he co-founded, aims to create a neutral, scientifically rigorous environment for interdisciplinary discussion of UAP-related issues. The foundation organizes symposia that draw academics, professionals, and military personnel to address not only the physical and technological dimensions, but also the ethical, societal, and psychological impacts of the phenomena. This initiative also prioritizes care for experiencers, individuals claiming direct encounters, by involving psychiatrists and mental health professionals, recognizing the trauma that can accompany these experiences regardless of their objective reality. Nolan stresses the importance of compassionate, stigma-free engagement and establishing protocols for responsible investigation free from sensationalism. Throughout their discussion, Nolan often returns to broader reflections on humanity's place in the cosmos and future trajectories. He speculates that if advanced civilizations interact with us, it might be through intermediated, hybridized entities or probes adapted to local environments, rather than direct encounters with beings identical to humans. This connects to his views on AI-assisted human evolution, where technological integration becomes a defining factor of future identity. He cautions against simplistic narratives around UAP disclosure, recognizing that rapid paradigm shifts have profound cultural, religious, and political implications. Nolan argues for careful, evidence-based progress that prepares society for transformative knowledge, balancing transparency with prudence. Similarly, with AI, he navigates hopes and fears about governance, freedom, and the potential emergence of post-human forms of consciousness or collective intelligence.